Alright guys, you should have a clean piece of notebook paper. Get your notes titled and dated. This video we're going to be talking about applying the negative exponent property. Okay, so the first and main thing that you need to know and remember is that there cannot be any negative exponents in our final answers. So if you happen to get a negative exponent as you're doing another rule, or if there starts off a problem and there's a negative exponent in it, that's fine. However, we have to take care of it before we can submit our final answer. One way to think about it is we don't like negative people. Nobody should like negative people. So we have to get rid of all those negative exponents and turn them all positive. So we're going to turn all the negative exponents into positive exponents. Okay? All right. So if there are negative exponents on the denominator, which is the bottom of our fraction, we are going to move them to the numerator or to the top and turn them positive. You'll also hear me call it flip instead of move. And then the exact opposite. If the negative exponent is in the numerator, so if it's on top, we're going to move it to the denominator or the bottom and make it positive. If you need this past this amount of time, I'm going to go ahead and erase it and move on so that we can get through all the examples, but go ahead and pause it if you still need to finish writing that down. So let's go through a few examples. So if we have 2 to the negative third, okay, so that's a negative exponent. I recognize that, and I know that I can't have negative exponents in my final answer. Now, right now, this currently does not look like a fraction. But remember, we can take any number, any whole number, anything, and put it over 1 to turn it into a fraction. So right now, that negative exponent is on the top. It's on the numerator, okay? So we're going to need to move it to the denominator, and when we move it, that makes it become positive, okay? Since there's nothing on the top now, we have to have a placeholder of 1. So that 2 to the negative third becomes 1 over 2 to the third. All of our final answers have to be written with positive exponents. Now we are only moving negative exponents. If exponents are already positive, we don't need to move them. They're already like the type of exponents that we like, okay? So in this case, 4 to the negative second is a negative exponent, okay? I have to make that positive. Since it's on the top, I have to move it to the bottom to make it positive, okay? Since 5 to the third is already positive, we have to keep it where it's at. We cannot move it if it's already positive. So 5 to the positive third is on the bottom, and that's where it needs to stay. But since there's nothing on the top now, I need to have that placeholder of 1 in our final answer. So we're flipping it from either the denominator or the numerator if it's a negative exponent. Okay. So this one's a little bit different because this is enclosed. This 3/4 is enclosed in the parentheses. So that's the same thing as saying 3 to the negative second and 4 to the negative second. Okay. So since they both have a negative, they're both going to get flipped. So 3 to the negative second has to go from the top to the bottom to become positive. And 4 to the negative second has to become positive by moving to the top. And since they're both raised to the same exponent, that's the same thing as taking 4/3 to the positive second. So flipping what was inside and changing it to a positive exponent. But you are going to have to show your work along the way, or you can leave it written like this. Either one is the correct answer. But you do have to show all of your work on these. All right. Why don't you try pausing the video and seeing if you can do this correctly on your own. Remember, you can only move the negative exponents. You can't move the positive ones. So try pausing it and try working it out on your own and seeing if you get the same correct answer. Guys, when there are multiple different, so these are 4 different bases, you need to move or rewrite each one by one. So I'm going to look at this 6 to the negative 4th. Since it's a negative exponent, I have to move it. And since it's on the top, it has to be moved to the bottom to become positive. And I'm going to mark through each one as I go so that I make sure I move it to the correct spot. Since 8 squared is a positive, it's going to stay where it's at. So it needs to stay on the top since it was already on the top. 3 to the negative 8, okay, we don't like negative exponents. We've got to make them positive. So since it's on the bottom, we're going to move it to the top and make it positive. And then 2 to the negative 1st is on the bottom. We don't like negative exponents, so we have to move it to the top so that this is our final answer. And every exponent in all of your answers from now on has to be positive. All right, on this one we have 1 over 6 to the negative 7th. Okay. So 1 has an exponent of 1. We can keep it on the top, or I'm going to wait and see if I need it. So on the bottom here, I have 6 to the negative 7th. So since that's negative, I need to make it positive by moving it to the top. So I have 6 to the 7th on the top. And now I don't have anything on the bottom. I can put a 1 there for a placeholder, but that's also the same answer as just saying 6 to the 7th power, because anything over 1 is itself. So I don't technically have to have that 1 on the bottom, but if it helps you see it as a fraction, then go ahead and leave it there. All right, last practice problem. Try and pause it and see if you can do it on your own. Okay. All right, 5 doesn't look like it has an exponent right now, but I can add the exponent of 1 to it, and that's going to be a positive exponent. So I'm going to leave it where it's at and leave it on the top of my fraction. 9 to the negative 3rd is a negative, so I need to make it positive by moving it to the bottom. 3 to the 4th is a positive exponent, so I don't need to do anything to that. I'm going to leave it on the bottom where it's at. And then 6 to the negative 4th, I got to make that a positive by moving it to the top. So that this is my final answer. So if it's a negative exponent, we have to make it positive. We don't like negative people. We don't like negative exponents. Okay, we have to turn them into positives. So if it's on the bottom, we have to move it to the top. If it's on the top, we have to move it to the bottom. So we're flipping it to the opposite side of the fraction bar. All right, I'm going to give you 4 practice problems. Get them written down and completed and bring them to me to get signed off. As always, if you have any questions, let me know.